Alright guys, welcome in. I want to introduce the bash build for our duo setup, Necromancer, which is intended to be played with our Templar setup. And we'll talk about why that is when we get to the Templar build later. But for now, let's go over the character that we have tonight. Alright, our main setup, we're looking at our attributes. We want to make sure that you're at least hitting our two goals, which are health, max health, which is close to 40k, and then max stamina anywhere above 20k max stamina. It can be 22, doesn't matter. Everything else you're fine with. Our recoveries, while at max, are going to be 11k max mag recovery, and then 15 stamina recovery. Not to worry about the health recovery. It is what it is. Our weapon damage, fully buffed 3000, critical at 25%. Our penetrations are close to 10k. At max resistance buffs, we're at 27 spell and 25,926 physical. Critical resistance 24, looks good. Okay. Next, our food is Jewels of Misrule. Boon is the lever for a little added penetration. And that's that. If you wanted to, and I would also recommend that you use Vampire on this build, because having skills that are more expensive aren't going to be a big deal with this build, because this build's a bash build, and bash does not count as a skill that is going to be impeded by the vampire cost increase for skills. We're just not a vampire in this yet because we just haven't gotten it done. All right. Next, let's move into our inventory. What are we wearing on this guy? We are wearing Deadlands Demolisher 5-piece. We have the sword and board, both golded out. The trait on the sword is a sharpened, give us more penetration. Why are we wearing this 5-piece? Because it gives us stamina bonuses. Really, in Cyrodiil, our whole build is centered around this particular 5-piece set, which gives us more bash damage, as you can see for the first line. The second line, when you bash, you deal a cone of extra bash damage every 2 seconds. Okay, that's every 2 seconds. We've also did some tests on this, and it seems like we can bash up to 5 times every 2 seconds. So maybe I would say, just to kind of round it up, we'll say we can do 6 bash attacks within 2 seconds. So 3 every second. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And that's close to 1 second apiece. So that's a lot of damage our opponents are going to be absorbing if our bash is doing a lot of damage, right? So as you can see, this dummy has 18,000 resistances. We're doing 3k per bash, and sometimes more on top of that, right? It's just a crazy amount of damage we can do in a short amount of time. A lot of burst. Okay. On our front bar, we also have Crown Lethal Poisons. On the back bar, we're using the Black Rose swords, the dual wield. It's called the Spectral Cloak set. I have both infused with 2 damage glyphs. You can go with stamina glyphs if you'd like to recharge your stamina. Why did I pick this the Black Rose dual wield Spectral Cloak set? Because I feel like I like the idea of giving that, as it says, 6% increase to all damage done, and a 6% decrease to all incoming damage taken. So that just means on our back bar, where we have this slotted, we'll have to keep our little Quick Cloak up. I like Quick Cloak better than the Deadly Cloak, because Quick Cloak gives us 2 things: major expedition for 4 seconds, and it gives us major evasion for the entirety of the casting. So both of those super helpful. Super helpful. I like the major evasion, especially in Cyrodiil. Any kind of mitigation we can have is premium. All right. Next is our we already did our back bar. Is our whole detail for our armor sets. So we have a helmet, Falcon Scoria, for the added penetration in 1 line. It is reinforced heavy. We have our Deadlands Demolisher Cuirass. We have 3 more pieces of Deadlands all on the body because it's a craftable set. I can make these, the hands and sash, both light if I wanted to, and I made them both light in this case. I have them both impinned to increase our critical resistance in Cyrodiil. Next, our next one piece is the Krog's shoulder for another line of penetration. So 2 lines of penetration right there. Next, Greaves of Cyrodiil. That's our last set we have on this guy is the Cyrodiil's Crest set. What does it do? Stamina recovery, 2 health lines, which is great because this health set, or this set is based, it's a heal set. It's an individual heal set that's based off of your max health. So you see that nice little 7k health heal once every 4 seconds. If we're in max, you know, our form for our best bash, which is our Necro right here. When we're in our Bone Goliath form, our Pummeling Goliath form, go back and check. Guess what? That heal has increased along with our max health. So now it's a 13k heal. It's a very premium set that is basing its heal off of your max health, which allows us to heal quite a bit in Cyrodiil. All right, and then our traits for each piece. We have reinforced helmet, reinforced chest, impin shoulder, impin waist, impin gloves, and then reinforce on both degrees and sabatons. Lastly, we have our jewelry pieces. They are all Cyrodiil's Crest, 1, 2, 3, all infused, all with bash glyphs. Going to increase our bash damage, which pairs very nicely with our overall bash damage we're gaining from the Deadlands Demolisher set. Okay, that's all of our armor, all of the traits, and all the jewels. Next, our skills. All right, on the back bar, accelerate, which when morphed, I want you to take race against time. Mine's just not morphed. It gives us minor force, which is interesting, but more importantly, the minor force and the major evasion is going to be the fact that you now have, if you take race against time gives you immunity to snares and snare removal. Big in Cyrodiil. Next, expunge modify. We take that one for 2 reasons. 1, it gives us back resources, as you can see in the first paragraph. And 2, it reduces the cost of all of our abilities slotted on the back bar, which can be great because it pairs nicely with having the Pummeling Goliath on the back bar. Next, Spirit Guardian. Main reason we have it is not necessarily for the heal, but for the while active 10% of our damage taken is transferred to the spirit instead of us. Summoner's Armor. It is our armor buff, main armor buff, our only armor buff, really. While active, reduces the cost of all your skills that names those 3. Okay, the main thing about this being summoners is we want to make sure that when we're in combat, somebody hits us, they come towards us. We don't have any real like ranged abilities except for our front bar. We have our little skeleton, but that is it. We want to have a melee battle. Quick Cloak, which we already talked about. And lastly, Pummeling Goliath. Next, on the front bar, we have Agony Totem, which can be shifted out for Unnerving Boneyard, depending on how your fights are going and what you're feeling you need to have in that fight. If you feel like you need a little bit more penetration and you not really so worried about getting some stuns in, then go with the Boneyard because you're going to get a slight bit added penetration out of it. Okay? And I'll go over a different idea for the build in just a second as well, too, for the gear when we finish up. Next, we have Necrotic Potency for our damage reduction. At the very bottom, it reduces your damage taken by 3%. And also, we can absorb any skeletons that are on the ground for an extra 6 ultimate, which is great because we're going to be dropping skeletons all the time on this build. Even if we don't kill people, we'll still ultimate. One thing to recognize, you cannot build ultimate while you're in skelly form. So make sure that when you decide to absorb those corpses, that you're not in Pummeling Goliath form because you cannot build ultimate while in Goliath form. So I'm going to pop, I come up, I absorb, and you see how at the bottom right, my ultimate did not go up. Please make sure that you are absorbing corpses after you have pummeled everybody into oblivion. Okay? See, still no ultimate. All right, moving on. Shield Assault to make sure that we can close the distance between ourselves and our enemies if they're trying to get away. And it gives us a nice shield that is based off of our max health. So it's a 12k shield. It is a huge shield, right? And as we block, the shield takes more damage as well. Or excuse me, as we block, the shield takes less damage as well. Okay. Our base heal, if we're not using our set to heal us, we're using our own abilities to heal us, is the Scythe. We're getting crushed by, 4 or 5 different guys at the same time. Hit them with one of those. Great heal. It even adds a heal over time for the magic aversion. The stamina version gives you a off balance proc, which takes away the heal over time. I like the heal over time. It's all based off of max health. It's not very much damage, at least not the way we have it set up. So use it only when you have to heal. Next, Blighted Blast Bones, which is one of our damage abilities. One of our only main damage abilities other than our bash, right? It is going to be really just Blast Bones and bash doing all the work for us, okay? Blast Bones, going to jump at them, and bash. And what does it do for us? Other than giving us a huge proc of damage in the AoE, is also going to give us the ability to hit our enemies with Major Defile, reducing their health recovery and healing received. All right, our last skill on the front bar is Dawnbreaker of Smiting, and that is for the passives, not necessarily for the damage. And speaking of the passives, let's go over those right now. In the Gravelord skill tree, we're going to take the first 3. I don't need the last one because Rapid Rot, we're not doing any damage over time, really, or any significant. Bone Tyrant, I like the 3 that I have slotted here, but not the Health Avarice because, I mean, if you want to take it, go ahead. But if you're trying to save yourself some skill points, that's the only one that I would go. I feel like I could go without really losing a lot. On the Living Death passives, I have all of them. One that you could do without if you'd like would be the Near Death Experience. That's up to you. Other than that, the rest of them are severely important, or at least extremely helpful. All right. Sword and Board, you're going to take all the passives. All of them. The one that's the most important out of these, though, is Deadly Bash. Okay, because it pairs with our build. Of the dual wield passives, I'm only taking one, Twin Blade and Blunt, but I would also take this one right here, Controlled Fury, because it's going to reduce the cost of us having to actually spend on Quick Cloak. Okay. Armor abilities. Because we don't wear any medium armor, we're going to need none of those. But for the light armor, I took all of them except for Grace. The others are pretty important because it helps our recoveries, our costs, resistances, critical rating, and penetration. Heavy armor took all of them except for Revitalize. You can take Revitalize if you like. It doesn't bother me. I don't necessarily see myself heavy attacking a lot on this build. You may need to, though. That's up to you. Fighter's Guild abilities. I took all of them except for Bounty Hunter, which you can take if you'd like. Ones that you could also do without would be this second right here, which is Skill Tracker. Totally up to you. I like the others that are here because one gives a damage bonus and the other one generates ultimate. Okay. Oh, and the first one, my apologies, also gives you a reduction in skill costs. Nothing in mages. I didn't take any of the Sigics, but you can for some of the passes if you'd like. You can reduce the cost of your Race Against Time, build some spell orbs, have a consecrated barrier on your back bar, which we're not going to be using. So any one of those would be fine. Nothing for Thieves Guild. I do like the Undaunted passives, the last one, Undaunted Metal, just to give us more max ability. Anything from the Assault and Support trees are good. And then obviously whatever your race is. I do like Imperial on this build, mainly for the reduced cost of all abilities, which does include a cost reduction in your ability to use your ultimates. So that's going to reduce our ultimate ability. Lastly is going to be use. Obviously, make sure you have that if you're playing anything in Cyrodiil, so you have your buffs for as long as possible. Okay? One thing I'm gonna go over real quickly right now is an option for the gear if you'd like to change it out. You would have a headpiece or a shoulder piece that you would like to change out, which was going to be Cyrodiil's crest to replace either Valkyn's Scoria or Krogs. And by the way, I use Valkyn's Scoria and Krogs for penetration. If you have another option for penetration, go right ahead. And what you would do is use the Shapeshifter's chain instead to replace it. And then every time that you morph up to Goliath, you're gonna have more health on your bar. Okay. So it gives you, what does it do? Two things. One, reduces all costs of your ultimates that are transformation ultimates, including our Goliath ultimate. So if you remember earlier, it was 230 points to cast the ultimate. Now it's 195. That's a lot less. That's a lot less. So this is a duo build based on the Crypt Cannon's sharing ultimate build. So if somebody's sharing their ultimate with you and they only have to share 195 to get you back up to Goliath, you're going to be in Goliath form a lot sooner. So if you're looking to stabilize or play a little bit more tanky, then you definitely want to use this Shapeshifter's chain, okay? And when you morph up right now, let's take it off just to show what we have with it off. Okay, it's off. When I morph up, whoa, why is our so low? What happened? Oh, we're not on our shield bar. Sorry about that. All right, so anyhow, let's go ahead and morph up. Our max health goes to 74.5. And our max stamina doesn't increase at all. Okay? Now, can we change it while we're in? Oh yeah, we did change it. Okay, so now our max health should go up to 77.4. And our max stamina and max mag both went up as well to 23 point. Yep. So, it can definitely help the build as well. All right. The last thing before we get into the rotation, which is going to be super easy, is the CPs. Breathing blows for healing while we're doing our Goliath and the damage we're doing with that in AoE form. What it does is the direct damage done, which is bash is the direct damage, will heal us. Next, Ironclad for reduction in the damage that we take. Resilience for critical resistance, and Repose because every time we block, we give ourselves a chance to proc this CP, which is a huge damage bonus, 33% additional damage once we block an attack. The red tree, we have Survival Instinct because it reduces the cost of our core combat skills. Blocking and bashing are both core combat skills, so please make sure you at least slot this one. Slippery, because you're going to need to be able to break free because it's Cyrodiil. Fortified for better armor, and Balanced Vitality. If you were to change one, you could take Vitality off and put that on Bracing Anchor just to add a little bit more tankiness if you feel like you need it. All right, last, let's go over the rotation. Rotation, even it doesn't change whether you're in Goliath form or not. It's the same one regardless. Let's take our chain off. Okay, we're going to go with... Sorry, I just had to do that. Our rotation is, if you're going into combat, make sure you're pre-buff with your armor skills and pop your potion. So, Spirit Mender, actually we would go with your armor first because armor reduces Spirit Mender costs. So armor, Spirit Mender, and our quick cloak. And then you go into your rotation, okay? So the rotation is Blast Bones and Bash him. That's the rotation. That's it. Blast Bones and bash them. You need to heal. Scythe. If they're trying to run away or overwhelm you, fear them with the fear totem. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing really amazing. And you're going to be doing tons of damage with the most simple of abilities, okay? So, same thing. Go into Goliath form, same thing. Pop your potion. yourself all defensive up. Boom, boom, boom. And then summon your little dude. Walk over to him. And just rip them apart if you can. Just like that. Heal. Hit them with the scythe. If they're trying to get away, shield charge. It's the simplest rotation that you can find. And then also one thing to remind yourself, don't ever absorb corpses until you're out of your Goliath form. Other than that, that's the build, guys. Hope you have a good night.